What's up, dudes? Dudettes. Matt in here. Get Matt in here. We'll just jump right off on this. There it is. It's rare we get this thing to kick off the right way every time. There he is. Hey, what's up, bud?
What's going on?
I think it's a good topic to discuss. We'll kind of hit it off the cuff. We didn't get a chance to kind of go over anything, but appreciate you coming on. I know I've had I wouldn't say lots, but several guys have hit me up and saying, you guys reference this training, you reference force on force and sims. Um, how do we do it the right way? I think it's probably worth discussing,
No,
mostly to look some of the pitfalls.
I think it's ye- yes, I think it is worthwhile to discuss whether or not it'll change anyone's mind. I think that is um, it
Par for the
won't,
course.
right? It's the same. The force on force training being like sometimes done incorrectly, or things that happen in force on force that don't really translate or highlight. Like, oh, let me shut this door. Trashy look, towel hanging on the door. Um, some things that don't really highlight like uh actual application, right, is people say that all the time, but then they go set up force on force training and they do the same shit every time.
Right.
Exact same thing every time. And I think part of it is probably how it's structured um initially. And then, to be perfectly honest, part of the issues with force on force are the people conducting the training have very low skill level anyway.
So, sir, yeah. So a lot more becomes acceptable.
Yeah.
A lot more is excusable. I want to start off with like my explanation of why I have the views I do. It'll only take a couple minutes, um, but it comes from taking part in force on force training um, with a DOJ group. So the FBI HRT guys were out here. Their local SWAT team, us, and another local SWAT team did a big, I guess it'd be near like a rut. We had 200 and something actors occupying. We shut down an entire terminal of the airport and we had it filled with hundreds of people that were all actors, right? Just moms and dads and wives and kids, and everybody's filling this place up. And they basically go like, hey, this happened, this person got by here, and now there's 2 to 3 armed gunmen at the far end of this terminal. Go deal with the problem, right? Patrol's been there, they're trying to hold it down. You guys go deal with the problem. So we show up, and this is embarrassing. Like, once it happened, it was like, this is embarrassing. We literally just embarrassed ourselves. So we come around the corner, and it seems like 200 yards down to the end of the actual terminal, right? And it's filled with people. And the bad guys, are down at the far end shooting at us, shooting right up the middle, right? All over the place. People are, running and diving all over the place. And we go running our ass off straight up the middle, just running, right? We get down there, and we get within sim range, and now we start ducking and dodging and jumping in behind corners, and we start shooting back. We didn't hit any good guys or innocents. Everything seemed to be great. And we walked back, and the guy who was proctoring it, he's just looking at us like, what the fuck was that? And we were like, pretty badass, right? We were fast as shit. This is a long time ago. We got down there and solved the problem. He's like, you guys would all be fucked. None of you are going to do that in reality. And we're like, yeah, we are. And he's like, no, you're not. He goes, they are shooting tens and tens and tens of rounds up this corridor that you have to go on, which there's plenty of places for you to bound. There's plenty of places for you to successfully try to get down there within an engagement range to, where you can't be just blasting back 200 yards with all these people. But you guys just ran down the middle knowing you ain't going to get hit with sims. And if you did, it doesn't matter. There's no penalty for that.
Mhm.
And we were like very defensive about it. Like, no, like that's what we do. Like We run into the problem and solve it. And he just looked at us like, you guys are fucking stupid. And like, he just kind of threw his hands up and walked off. And it was embarrassing as shit. A couple of my buddies that were with me were looking at each other and were like, that's embarrassing, dude. Like, that's true. Because in reality, if they were down there and one of them was a full auto AK, if they were down there actually shooting at us, would we be running up the middle like some kind of sim hero knowing nothing's going to happen? And we're like, no, we wouldn't. You know, we had guys argue, well, people are dying down there. He said, it doesn't do you any good to get your ass smoked en route, right?
Yeah.
You cannot even shoot back. So why did you do what you did? And it was just like, because we don't know any better and it's Sims training. That was the only logical excuse, right? It's because it's all bullshit and we're heroes. We're Sim heroes.
Yeah. But it's one of the caveats every unit I've ever worked with says about Sims training is, hey, treat it like it's a real gun.
Right.
But fucking no one does.
And then does not do that.
Yeah. So I think there are some, you know, some artificialities in it. I think part of it is kind of it's legacy training things, right? Where you're wrapped up in it. You're playing the artificiality of the problem, right? Knowing, hey, I have to, and probably back in the day, right, it was the 9mm Sims rifles,
Yep.
which are not accurate at all.
No.
Right? So the ones that I used for the last number of years in the military were, you know, a blue bolt you replaced and a Sims 5.56 round
out of your gun.
And
yeah,
we had big discussions in the past, you know, about, well, errant shots and things like that. And we didn't know. So we're like, let's go see. So we take a little E-type silhouette out. We go out into, you know, a front parking lot in front of where we work. And we started shooting this thing 25 yards, 50 yards, 75 yards, and out to like 80 yards in high wind. If I put the dot on the center, the round goes to the center.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are remarkably accurate.
Yeah, especially the new UTM 5.56 rounds, those little tiny fuckers, the little bees. They
Yeah.
get moving.
So it's like, okay, yeah. So we got to stop with this idea that if you're in a room or you're in a hallway or something or a structure, right, and it's even a far shot, right? Say it's a 60-foot shot or something like that, 20 yards, right? If you're doing everything you're supposed to do, like it's a real gun, the bullet will go exactly where you want it to go. And then, you know, I think part of the force on force is when you did this force on force, who were your role players?
The role players were, I believe, FBI guys.
Okay. So there's probably,
I never really found out who the bad guys were, but they were cops.
So they're probably like, they're going to fight right up to the bitter end, right? And what it ends up happening, you know, I would reference this in the past, right? It turns into a very expensive paintball war.
Yes, that's what it looked like.
And that's all you're doing is you're playing paintball, right? Now, the thing that would be funny when kind of like, I think guys that don't have a lot of training, but this is your most realistic training, the actual application looks very similar to that realistic training.
Yes.
Right? Guys that receive rounds, you know, at any point, lots of retrograding, lots of TTPs falling apart, just kind of shit going sideways. So they never have the, you know, in force on force training that I've witnessed a lot of in the LE world, you never have the opportunity to see if what you're doing works. Then even when it doesn't work, you're not willing to actually AAR it for the considerations like, hey, is the technique bad, or was the execution of the technique bad? And I know we've talked about.
That's what I think guys miss is, and I think we'll get to it, like that scenario on Sims is probably inappropriate due to the distance, right? But when you take things in where it is appropriate, where the Sims are accurate, and you should be treating it like it is a real weapon. You should be shooting it the same, none of this stuff either. But when it is, and what you do falls apart, does that mean you're incapable of doing it for reality? Like actually AARing it going down, we said we would do this, and when this happened, all of this fell apart. The first couple rounds that hit the door jam, the number one guy backs up into everybody in the stack, but that's not what he's supposed to do. Why did that happen? Oh, well, and it becomes a cacophony of excuses and everything else that we can lay out to justify us not doing what we said we would do and what we say we're trained to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah. No, I think
here's how we do it. As soon as the rounds go, everybody's like, oh, and people are running around like, you didn't expect that?
I'll tell you the times that I've done like actual force on force, like ruts where, we're going up against that agency or that city's, SWAT team, whatever level it is a rarity to get shot. Right. And it's like, you just don't, and when you do, it actually pisses you off, but it's information that you take back. Obviously, it doesn't really affect what happens. Right. But if you're like, yeah, hey, look at my arm. I got hit in the arm, I got pain on my arm. Right. You have to pay attention to that in terms of, the first place you're going to look is not to question the technique, not to question, the TTP you're using. Question did I do it correctly? Was the execution as good as it could be? Right. Or was it like, is he just playing the paintball game? Right. But I'll tell you the way that we would do it, guys don't play that paintball game because they're still eating charges. Mm-hmm. Right. They're still eating training charges. You're still going to get an ounce on an interior door. You're going to get bangers. And then also the pace, what we're actually testing, especially from a hostage rescue standpoint, is the pace at which we can close with and kind of steal time. Right? That's what the real test in force on force is. That's why you do it against people that don't necessarily know your tactics.
Right.
Right.
Good.
They know, we're coming in to do CQB. They know what's coming for them. Right. But they've never seen it before. But the debrief's always the fucking same. It's just their minds, like the way that we're doing business. They're like, fuck, heard the helo shit. Boom, boom, boom. Guys coming this way. Guys coming this way. Right. And they are drop dead in the middle of fucking chaos, and they lose every time. Like they handedly lose. Even good guys do. But I think too I watch a lot of this, in the social media world. There's a lot of force on force, and the default excuse is like, well, we're just learning, it's brand new or whatever. Okay, but you're learning incorrect shit for a brand new level. I'm not talking about the pace at which you're going. What you're learning is wrong, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to the same paradigm of shooting that we've been attacking, right? The practical approach to training trumps any fucking tactical school. I don't give a shit from day one. Because what ends up happening is everyone that teaches hard front sight focus, pull to imaginary wall, press, surprise break, because they like shooting 25-yard B8s. As soon as you want to talk about engaging quickly, I have to reteach you how to pull the trigger. Right. And that's
because you're going to
happening. Yeah, it's what's happening in force on force training. It's, and it's, I'm tired. The excuses come out of the woodwork. It's like the people that teach this shit, like, right, where it's like Joe Blow civilian. Oh, we're practicing clearing the house. And it's like, you're not even structuring the training correctly, right? Because no one's aiming, right? You've got one guy that sits, just in the corner of a house. It's like typically predators that break into the house aren't going to go post up somewhere.
No.
In the house, right? Now, I would say like an adversary from a law enforcement thing, like, hey, if I'm a mental case and I'm going to be way deep in a back bedroom and I'm probably going to have somebody, maybe I barricade the door, right? And then that's a real situation. But this idea where I'm playing this sneak peek thing, what I would love to see, right, if it were me, it's like, hey, go clear the house. Cool. I'm going to stand in this one position for about 35 minutes until the adversary is so fucking bored that he's going to come out. Yeah. right? And now it's, well, you don't want to structure the training correctly. You're putting me at a disadvantage. If he's laying in wait in an ambush, right? The same principles for like crossing fucking danger areas apply. You minimize the amount of time that you're in that area. So what do you think that's the speed of entering and clearing rooms and leaving those rooms look like? It's
It's fast.
fucking, it's about as fast as you can move, right? Because if I'm if I'm going to slow pie the doorway and he's in a room where there's only one doorway, just like this bedroom I'm in, he's gonna have that gun pointed at the doorway. Like that's that's where he's gonna work. He's generally gonna be in, if it's a real gun, he's gonna be in a deep corner because he wants to see the most of the room. For Sims training, he's gonna pick one of the shallow
Yep.
corners. Right? But that also is not, like, from your experience, is that the place where people hide?
No.
Fuck no.
So that's why I wanted to hit the point before we got on further with it, was like the training is structured wrong, right? It's all right, there's a bad guy in that room, go get him. Okay, well, why the fuck would I just rush in there right now versus I can wait? Well, no, you have to get in there right now. Okay, well, so if he's waiting in there just to shoot the first thing that moves, right? Then there's going to be a shootout. Or the Sims training you see where two guys are just in front of each other shooting each other. I got bad news for you. You're just both getting shot. One of you might live, one of you might die, you both might die. I don't know. But when it comes down to the actual way the training is put on, just because you got hit, does that mean you did something wrong? Right? So, all right, hey, I took a round on that one in the arm. We got to change all our TTPs. Clearly, what we're doing is wrong. We need to change everything because it's not safe for me.
Yeah,
You see where that happens too?
they're like, I want to present less or present less.
Right.
Okay, you can't do that. If I want to shoot him and he wants to shoot me, it's a two-way range. If this is the big argument from the later years in the most recent wars. It's the I don't want to get killed pants. Everyone had them on. Higher level guys, so fucking risk adverse, right? They just don't. It's almost like they're like, we just want to get out of this without taking any more casualties. Well, the number one thing, yeah, we can just drop bombs on them and do that shit, throw grenades in the rooms all day long. But that's not what this training is for, right? It's like, and I hate to say it, a lot of the force on force you see within the social media is centered around fucking civilians, right? Law enforcement training, they don't put it on, and they probably don't put it on for good reason. The things that I have witnessed in force on force CQB, or let alone Sims on paper,
Yeah.
in shoot houses, is just fucking abysmal across the board, right? It just crazy shit. Teams that are like, yeah, you could be doing this tonight, and then just watching like, what? Okay, we're done with that run. Let's AR it. Like, at what point did you feel like you lost your mind? You tell me when you think it happened, and then I'm going to tell you what I saw happen. And guys just don't get it, and it's like, so that's another thing. I think the structure of the training. If you are stressed out doing force on force, the actual application of your job is not for you, because you're
Yeah.
not going to get hurt, right? You
I
might
think it's
feel
a. I think a lot of that comes down, and I try to speak from the LE side. I think a ton of that comes down to our own egos, and it's a test anxiety. It's a performance anxiety. They feel like they're taking a test instead of just, I'm going to demonstrate what I can do for you in this moment. It might work out, it might not, but I'm going to do what I was trained to do the way I was trained to do it. And if I do that, I have a higher chance of being successful. But what I see is, and we just started another 40-hour school today, but we'll be on scenarios Wednesday, or yeah, I don't even know what day it is, Wednesday and Thursday. We make a point of like, hey, you're at this door, you're calling into this house. It's a burglary alarm, right? And you got your less lethal here. Here's your lethal coverage. Make some announcements into the house. We try to make a point of it, like, why are you standing where you're at? And I ask dudes that all the time. I'm like, when the dude starts shooting at you, why am I standing where I'm at, and what can I do about it? Like, run that through your mind. And if you find yourself standing in a stupid spot in the open, fix that. So we try to reinforce that idea, but we are very, very focused on what the scenario is or what they're dealing with. But we make a point like, this could be a problem where you're at if you start getting shot at. And when you do, what are you going to do about it? And we go through a day of scenarios, and then one day it just pops up where they're doing their call out, and a guy starts railing rounds out the front door at them. And it happens every single time. Everybody shrinks back a little bit and starts looking around and goes, I have no idea what just happened with sparkles on my head, if you saw that.
That is awesome.
Fucking what's going on with that? Everybody shrinks back and goes, oh, fuck. Well, we would move over here. I'm like, it's all real. Like, keep doing whatever it is you said you would do. Okay, we're going to move. And then everybody wants to do like this slow clear across the door. And it's because the initial volley didn't hit them. Because it didn't hit them, they just cracked into the door. Everybody stays right there like, this is an okay place to be. But I asked them, like, I don't know. I'm kind of going off on a weird thing on it, but like, those reactions are what I see happening constantly. Like, I gave you paint bullets. You know he has paint bullets.
So,
what do you think was going to happen?
This is where I think this comes that you talk about, that slow pie, right? Because, a lot of it, I think Dustin's in here listening to it, and he already said in the comments, very low confidence levels in their skills. That combined with when you're doing TTPs, a very nascent or rudimentary understanding of the TTPs they use. I had a very interesting little time training. It was training OTOA, their red shirt instructors, the guys that teach their basic SWAT school, right? And outside of them, not understanding what the training about, it was like, okay, let's just go to your TTPs. The shit you guys teach. Yeah. And it was like, okay. And everyone's saying, right, this rolling across the doorway and shooting. And I set up a little exercise for him where I personally stood in the center of the room, right? And I'm, 10 feet off the doorway. We're at Rifle Sims, right? There's 15, 16 instructors. I want everyone to go as much as you want. And what I told them, I go, as soon as you present something in the doorway, I'm going to shoot the door jamb twice. I'm not going to shoot at you. I'm just going to shoot the door jamb. The amount of emotional fucking douchebaggery that happened, guys who are like these tight t-shirt, Punisher skull, fucking bravado SWAT killer guys, right? Roll through that doorway, shoot 5 or 6 rounds. I think maybe everyone running it, 16 guys, I might have been hit twice. Right? So now it's like I did that to highlight, like, I'm watching you guys. No one in this group possesses the actual skill to do the TTPs you want to do, right? Because a lot of people will think limb pen is going to be easier somehow because you're doing more from the doorway. But what's happening is you're asking a lot more of the individual in terms of identifying, recognizing, discriminating, and deciding in very small windows of engagement, right? Because he's only moving 32 inches, right? So now as something presents, God forbid that threat moves, what do you think
I see your arm.
do?
I just move out of the way.
Yeah.
He moved.
Yeah. Combine that with, he just shoots through the fucking wall at you, right? And then what will end up happening wholeheartedly is the officers will just shoot through the wall back at him. And if that's the play, then we don't even need to talk about TTPs at all. Yeah, just shoot through the fucking walls. It is unacceptable. The whole thing is unacceptable. But the issue with it is, like, historically you would have TTPs, you would do them in a live fire shoot house against paper. Everything's perfect. The house is set up to favor the TTPs, right? We've got targets. If you're doing points of domination, we got targets in the 1 and 2 primary corners, and we have targets in 3 and 4 sectors right where they come up. So 2 of the targets have 2 rounds in them each, and the other 2 targets all have 8 rounds in them each on a 4-man clear. Like, that is like CQB setup 101. and it's easy to score and it's easy to grade, right? Then when you put this in force on force, now you're adding a variable, a training modifier, right? That you want good role players, so there's consistency, right? The scenarios are kind
Yes.
of scripted, like, hey, on when you hear them move, leave LCC, I want you to come out of the house and shoot a little bit. All right, we do that to amp the assault force up. Now we're going to test the breaching, the breaching skills, and can they procedurally breach with that little bit of stress, right? And then it keeps going down this road. But the whole point of it is to come back in an AR at the end of every run and assess, you know, generally the technique the TTP you're using is good. The real assessment is, did we execute it as good as we could have? What were the mistakes? What do we need to fix? Right? What are the improves? And then kind of what are the sustains? Reset, hit it from another side, right? Or if it's so bad, you hit the same run. Do the same setup again. You know where everything is. Now you're taking some of the cognitive part out of it. Now I just want to see you execute it under the little bit of stress that is fucking, Sims or UTM. And
Right. And I think a lot of what you got, or I've learned this from you, and I've learned this through my time, is that if I'm in my room and I'm looking at the way this is set up, there's only a max distance that I can deal with, but there's a lot of movement and a lot of dead space and a lot of hides, right? People on the other side of beds, people a room deep, all these other things you can take into consideration. Are you able to slowly go across that and deliver those shots? Have you tried it on the range for real? Like similar movements, have you accomplished those movements on a flat range? Then take them into the house, and when you set the targets up, nothing's moving. Are we actually getting in at the speed we need to and delivering shots as accurate as we need to on paper? Cool. If we cannot do that, how do you expect to do it on paint? I don't think you can.
no,
When you can, all right, we can do that on static targets. How do we go about making sure that that happens on paint? Because we have to now be accountable for our own hits, right? Makeups, anything that we need to do, we have to hit those areas and take care of the situation that calls for it based on what we're seeing at the time. And when you get an actor who you put the 4 actors in the same spots and the 2 in the middle go down first, well, they shouldn't have hits from the other 2 guys, right?
yeah,
If they react. It's just if they stay up too long, that's when you would hit them. I don't see that happening on paint because I don't think, like you said, I don't think for the most part we're capable of doing it on the flat range to start.
no,
That baseline fundamental skill isn't there to support it.
no, I don't think it is. And I've seen it. I used to in my 3-day classes, I used to shoot a stage on the third day. Stage was up all day. Run it rifle, run it pistol. Pretty straightforward, kind of like a star stage, like 4 or 5 shooting
Yeah.
positions. And then the last thing I would do is everyone had their stage plan. They've all ran it, you know, 15 or 16 times throughout the day because it's just open. There's training drills, it's disconnected training going on the range. You run the stage as much as you want. Then the last thing I do is I change all the targets to photographic targets. Photographic targets that I've put on top of USPSA targets and cut them out to the same shape. So visually, it's just giving you something to look at, right? Scoreable zones are relatively the same size. Times would quadruple or quintuple with that stage, right? A stage that is a 12-second practical shooting stage
Mm-hmm.
would take guys over a minute, right? And what that was to highlight this idea, this concept that I'm promoting. Like the hard skills have to just run in the background. When they do, it's much easier. Case in point, Ben, who never had seen that stage, he never had done that type of training before this. He added about 4 seconds to his time because he's not thinking about making these easy shots, right? Now he's just in terms of he's already got the stage programmed in which way he's running, right? But where it was, 12, 13 seconds, he was like, whatever, 17, 18 seconds, right? Because now it's just look at it. Yep, that's a shoot. That's a no shoot. That's a shoot. That's a no shoot, right? And that's the value of understanding. Like until the skills are developed and overdeveloped, where they can run in the background, anything else you're doing, you're not getting full value of it. And that's really me being nice, right? What I want to say is it's a waste of fucking time and money, right? Stop every vehicle course you ever go to officers that only shoot once a year.
Yeah.
It's a waste of money. Vehicle course is fucking astronomically expensive, right? Buy them some more ammo. Give them some more training days. Pay some overtime for them to go to the range. Give them time like what you guys do. Time on their shift to go shoot 50 or 100 rounds. The thing is, guys don't see that, right? But here's the deal. However, this robust training community that's existed in law enforcement for how long? 20 years plus,
Oh, yeah.
at least since GWAT. It's all the
Yeah.
bro vets coming out teaching you, samurai, Ronin, whatever shit.
That's
Is
as early as '01. Yeah.
Has
01.
anything changed garden variety across the board in officer skills and abilities?
No.
No.
It's
The
stagnant.
metrics,
Yeah.
it's the fucking exact same, right? So it's like something you have to look to something else, right? And I feel wholeheartedly it's not more tactical training. It is absolutely not more tactical training, right? Because it doesn't matter. The point of delivery is what happens, for CQB is what happens inside the room. Where you stand, I don't care about, right? But you don't. Most agencies that like Limp Pen CQB don't understand that you're asking officers to do more and do more things more precise faster.
And you're asking one guy to do it.
Yeah, it's so. And I don't think no matter how many times you see this on force training, it's they see it, it's proven to them, and then it's just ignored.
I think one of my favorite drills we do at the school is we do a bunch of scenarios. We do a bunch of scenarios. I do external structure and internal structure with them. So we get 2 days of that. And it's just for less lethal. But we give them other guns and they go in. We do one where as soon as the lights go out, I said, all right, the environment's changed. We're still in the same structure. We're internal residential, but now the lights are off. Click, turn the lights off. The call is the same. The scenario is the same. Go clear this place, right? And no one's in it. We don't tell them that. There's actors in there, but the actors go out the back door, and then now it's an empty structure. It takes them about 1 billion years to clear this place. And there's a shit ton of over planning that goes with it. That whole idea, like, and as the further, the deeper they get, and I have the house cut, so it's just one big room, a kitchen, and 3 bedrooms, right, with a hallway. That's all that's left of the house. But as they get through it, no one's in the big room, no one's in the kitchen. It's like, oh, it's coming. And they get the first room done. It's like, oh, it's coming. Now it's 50-50. They get that next room. Shit, no one's in it. It's this one. This is the room. This is where it's all going to go down. And it's just like you can see people, the peeking and the poking, and then finally it's like, oh shit, did we miss somebody? No, it's empty, dude. Like it's just an empty place, right? And then we give them simple shit where all it is the dude, as soon as they have to make their announcements, now it's like, hey, you had no response. It's just a burglar alarm. It's time to clear it. Boss said, hey, you've been out there a bit. We got no response. Let's get this place cleared. So they have their little team. They start going their way in. And as soon as they get into the big room, a dude just pops out from the hallway with his hands up. It's like, okay. And all the flashlights and guns go to him, right? Leaving all the exposures to the big room and the kitchen and everything else. All the flashlights go to this one dude. And it's because I tell them, it's like, we're all like professional golfers. I think I've said this before, right? Cops are pretty good at the one cop thing, right? But when I try to put you guys together to work as a team, it's like 8-year-olds playing soccer. Everybody's chasing the ball around. Everybody wants to do the one thing. So we don't even have that level of understanding of what do I need to do to make a team successful. And I think we don't have the trust that everyone else in the team can actually accomplish the goal. So all the cops' guns have to be out. All the cops' guns got to get pointed because they know, like, these guys can't shoot. I can't shoot. I don't trust them. We need as many guns as possible pointed at it. Does that make sense? Like what I'm talking about?
Oh
Where
yeah.
something happens over here on the right and you and I go in a room, that is your problem. I have a problem I have to deal with until I get to your problem. Right? Would you
Yes.
agree? That's
Yes.
your fucking problem. Deal with that shit. I'm going to do my thing. And if you're not screaming and yelling and I've got all my stuff done, I'll come help you. But if I got a person to deal with too, even if it's a no shoot, I got to deal with that person before I help you. I can't go turning my back on them.
And that's a byproduct too of having a good understanding of, procedurally what's happening. If I use this technique, then the procedures for applying it are this, I do this, then this, then this. Right. And guys, this has been my argument with all the former LE CQB ninjas. You don't understand it, right? It's like you understand this one hybrid system that maybe you used, right? Or you got it from like the Stoker dude, right? There's tons of these guys. Well, I was a former Marine. Good for you, buddy. Big fucking deal. Like no one cares about that, right? You know, I will tell you, like you, some guys may have a very good understanding of the system that they use, right? And you, off of a 10-minute discussion with them, I've been to plenty of departments where I'm like, we're going to do CQB. What kind of CQB do you do?
Oh, we do
And it's
this.
just crickets.
This. Yeah.
If no one on the team can tell me what TTPs you're doing, right? Hey, we are primary points of domination, or we are primary limb pen with points of domination for hostage rescue, right? You're already admitting that one, you don't understand what you guys do, let alone actual CQB as a tactic, what's supposed to happen,
Yeah.
right? Because the best teams, the guys that do this professionally, can go in and out of all of it. I'm going to go fast when I should be going fast, and I'm going to slow down when I lose initiative. And I'm constantly going to be working to get that initiative back.
Yeah.
You see that when very, very competent teams start to clear very large structures, right? Like if you have to clear an office building, right? Because let's say we have the active shooter on the first floor, right? And that was a big dynamic fight. And now we have to clear this building.
And you will.
I'm not going to.
Yeah.
You're going to go. You got to go into every room. We've got to clear all the dead space. We've got to open everything up. We got to make sure that there wasn't a second, shooter. So what does that clear look like, right? For the undisciplined guys, it's very hokey pokey and jerky, and then it gets faster and faster and faster as you go down, right? Because complacency, when you're clearing, hey, we're on the first floor, then we go to the third, then we go to the fifth, complacency creeps in, right? And it's just dry hole after dry hole after dry hole, right? But understand that happens, and then team leaders and leadership guys should have controls, to pull guys back out, coordination points. This starts the whole complex discussion of what actually happens in a site when you're clearing it. But if we're arguing about where we stand in the room, or are we coming into the room, or are we going out of the room, what that movement looks like, right? I don't care about that, right? If that is the argument, I already assume you don't have the skills and ability to deliver what we need anyway. So I'll just do whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah.
You want to pie the doors? We're going to pie the door.
And then when you deal with the guy that there's, I know we're talking about force on force, but this all plays into it. So for the guys watching, and Matt, if you're good with it, I'm going to save this. I'll post it up.
Yeah.
Some of the guys have asked. The pie, and I'm not against any of this. Like every technique, you might have a thing where that fits. Like you might have to do a certain thing, but the object, right, is to get back to what you do normally. When I see guys pieing the door in the scenarios we'll be running, they'll be slowly looking around the corner and they'll run into a no shoot, no threat, right? Just unknown. They're like, I don't know if the guy's a bad guy. I don't know if he's a burglar. I don't know what he is, but he's a person, right? People, doors, and hide. So I found a person, but now it's like, oh, and now everybody again is sucked into that room. No one, we always talk about who's covering long, who has this open door to your just offset caddy corner to your back. why are we taking our time to get across this one thing when it's really becomes a one-man problem now? He's looking in a room and he's got to worry about his back, and you got some guy with a gun up like this pointing it at the door like that's coverage, right? It's not. So that I still feel like that all comes from Sims. They're worried about the little plastic BB getting shot at them, and they figure if anything happens over here, I can just blast at it, because I know if I make a mistake and I hit this guy, I'm not going to kill him. It's going to hurt a little bit. But like, even in Sims, the blue on blues, how well are those even addressed? As far as,
Dude, I
like,
think it.
tactics aside, like, we're beyond, like, people have a misunderstanding of what they should be doing. They don't even know what they do themselves. But when we get to paintball wars again, when we play Sims, the blue on blue part and the blue on freaking innocent part, how is that addressed? Like, oh man, yeah, he got in the way.
It's
Like,
absolutely not addressed, not in any way, shape, or form, from my experience. What are you going to do?
yeah,
Let's go. Let's go through some of the punch. Can we take pay from them?
nope,
Can we fire them?
nope.
Right? You have no tools to apply anything. I have seen blue on blues in LE units that are just laughed off, like, okay. And it's like, okay. Like, I don't care about it if you guys don't care about it. Like, but this is a lot bigger deal than what you think it is. And so it can either be, we can either attack this from like a professionalism and training side. So, because when blue on blues happen, you've probably seen throughout the day or throughout initial training runs that no one is aiming. That is a very common thing with force. I just don't aim at all,
Yeah,
right? I've seen it with Sims on paper. I did a training thing with the department and watched 5 or 6 runs, and I'm watching these guys shoot sim on papers at 5-6 feet in a pretty small shoot house, and I was like,
like
hey,
this.
all I'm going to do, I was like, hold on a minute, because I want to see where the shots are going, is I went down to my truck and got a roll of black tape. And I just taped up the hits we had. That regional team here in North Carolina canceled training. Because now you saw a graphic representation of what you guys are doing on no stress runs. And it was like, okay, me and EJ got in the truck, packed up our shit and left. And it was like, it's not, if you don't care to fix it, I don't care. Like, I absolutely don't. Right? You guys can all go back to buy your tight t-shirts and tell everybody, stroke each other's dicks, that you guys are the best thing on the planet. You literally missed a 5-foot shot with a Sims rifle.
With
Like,
no recoil.
with no recoil. 5.56 Sims. Right? You could be called to go do this. If that is the level of training, you have bigger organizational problems than anyone can fix. Though you need to call Ronin Tactics and take a fucking Ninja Samurai class or whatever the fuck you want. Become red dot pistol instructors wherever you guys think it's going to be. It's not going to fix you. It is beyond bad. If you are an active team and that shit is in the back of your car and that's your delivery on the one day a month you train, and then also you don't care to fix it as an organization, like, you are not a formidable force at all to any criminal anywhere. The
And
only
that's so my,
thing
yeah.
that makes it better is enough of you will show up and you can squirt bullets all over the place, right?
So how does, if you took the same dudes and you stuck them on a flat range, right, at the same distance, and you said, all right, hands off the rifle, hanging, I'm gonna hit the beat, just grab it and shoot. How many of them do you think possess the skill, right, just to make alphas at 5 yards? I would say most, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think most guys would make alphas, right? Because there's a disconnect where there's a target there that's clean. I'm gonna shoot it, and then I'm gonna go score it,
yep.
right?
So
Where
why? Again, because they're like, okay, here I go. I'm going to do this. I'm standing still. That means I can do this at 10 yards. That means I'm good to do CQB. But you're not moving. You're not doing anything. You're not adding all the layers that go with the actual finding and decision, right? On just paper. and even discerning no shoot papers versus shoot papers. And they'll just squirt at it. So you don't do that on the live range. Why do guys do that in the house? Why do you see that happen?
Because
Like, and I'm asking that rhetorically, like, so we can discuss it.
yeah, in the house, when it's live fire CQB, they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a byproduct of Sims, right? And also too, there have you ever heard of a basic SWAT school that scores and grades CQB?
No, I'm not aware
Yeah.
of one.
Why not? To me, what it sounds like, basic SWAT schools are much like NTOA, where they don't fucking matter. It's just non-credentialed training. It's a piece of paper that says you went to basic SWAT school. Cool. How much live fire did you do? Right? I think on the high end, I've heard in some a day and a half, maybe 2 days. On the low end, OTOA is like half a day. Right? And it's a weird thing. Oh, well, we only have 5 days. Okay. Then call it intro to SWAT school. Like, I would say that it's not really like what officers need for training. To be honest with you, you'd be better served dedicating 5 days to having that officer's SWAT team train him on how they do business.
Yeah. And then my thing would be like, if you had not a standard, like whatever word you want to apply to it, but like a metric, like you said, graded CQB, we're going to go Sims on paper, right? This is where everything has to be able to be kept. You got to do, it has to be in here. And if you can't maintain that on Sims on paper, you don't get to go to this.
Dude, I agree with that, but I think we can all agree that law enforcement does not like standards, right?
No.
A standard is only worth its weight in its ability to be enforced.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
Right. So how many errant shots? How many shots not a 5 doing Sims on paper CQB before you're off the team? I don't care if it's 1,000, but make it a number and then someone track it. Right? Because anybody that's doing this shit for real, if at some point you fall off the developmental train, right? If you're at the places that actually do this stuff, right? LE2, right? Federal LE agencies that do this all the time, they eat it, sleep it, live it, train it. If you fall off the developmental train, guess what you don't do anymore?
SWAT shit. Yeah, you're a liability.
100%. Right? And I think if you were to look collectively at more groups of teams, especially non-full-time teams, it is a collective group of individual liabilities with maybe 1 or 2 people that can like wrangle them. Like it's just, I mean, I know there's some there. I see a distinct difference when I train with guys that are like properly resourced teams that are into training. These guys are doing a ton of shit on their own, right? You see them, they're out in California. Those dudes look like 500 times better than the dudes that are just the Punisher skull t-shirt guys. Right? And it's not there's still no standard or no penalty, right? Maybe there's an intrinsic unit standard or agency standard where they're like, we value our guys being really, really good, so we resource them correctly, right? And I know you're
culture. Like there's peer pressure and embarrassment and everything else that can go with it. Even if there's no existing standard, there's always a way. Like if you hold yourselves up high enough and you go, this is what we expect, it's very clear who's off the developmental train, who's not sitting in the cup, right?
what I've seen on some teams, right? There is the culture thing. It's where I got off of like, hey, we're gonna try to influence the culture, right? It's a waste of time. The only thing you do is develop a culture within a culture. Because the one thing too that law enforcement cultures, and I challenge agency this they hate is the creep of excellence. When you have one guy that really takes it on board and starts developing and developing, they don't like that, right?
Especially
And
when
then,
people get on board and start climbing with.
yeah, then it's like it's almost a mentality like, come on, man,
You're trying to make us
you're making us all look
bad.
bad. Which I just don't get it, man. I don't understand it. But it's alive and well, right? We go back to the force on force stuff. There's so much force on force training now that gets uh promoted like on the CQB side. I just kind of lump in like I have I personally haven't heard of anyone that's doing CQB as a training company that's giving it that shoots at live fire. I
Yeah, and I
also
think
haven't heard of anyone that incorporates live fire into their CQB training.
as either a pre-assessment or post-assessment, like, yeah, I agree with that. And I
I,
get, and this isn't us bitching, right? I get there's logistical problems getting an actual live fire shoot house. And there's like, we've done, like, you'll do live fire and offsites with bullet traps. Like, it can be done, but there needs to be a lot of stuff going on. And for a private company to do it, I think there's more, like, I know with my insurance, there's more insurance to run sims than there is live fire. Like, it's
yeah,
a different requirement
it's
to do
it's
force on
not even
force.
to the way that I like conducting CQB training, right? You're talking about at a minimum, we need 4 days, right? I want to do a day of kind of runs, right? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
easy runs, whether it's two man, for whatever you're doing. I want to see it in the house. The second day, we're going to the range, and
See,
I'm
we
going to
do that.
set up, I'm going to tie together your live fire training with what you are telling me you can do in the house. And then we can talk about what that needs to look like, right? Because that's a huge disconnect for a lot of guys, right? And it's back into the house, and then it's a day of on the range and in the house again, right? Because I think too many times it would be like I'm going to a driving school, but we're not driving. We're not going to drive real cars. We're going to drive go-karts. Same shit, right? You're
Yeah.
going to get the same thing out of it, right? But we're not going to pit because it's go-karts and you'll flip them over, but we're just going to talk about pitting. Like, that wouldn't make sense if you
No.
did that. Like, I'm going to go to firefighter school, but we're never going to put any fires out.
We'll put the outfit on. We'll breathe out of the SCBA, but yeah, we're
You're
not
just
going to
gonna
do anything with water or
you're
fire.
just gonna hold the hose,
Yeah.
right? And not have to control it, not have to control it under pressure. You're just gonna, but it'll work out. You wouldn't do that with anything else, but everyone does it with with tactics and everything. And then it's logistics. You can still shoot live fire. I guarantee you, wherever you're training, you can find an LE range around there, right?
Yeah.
Probably the same organization. No one thinks about that, right? I will say, like, the significant part of my CQB training in the military, it was all live fire. Now, if we were off site, it's sims, it's force on force for the same reasons you said, right? You're not going
Yeah.
to move in a bunch of bullet traps. One, no one's going to assume that level of
No.
risk. You're already assuming a ton of risk landing helicopters on buildings all over the place, right? So, but what we're doing in terms of structuring the training correctly, like, it's no fail when it's live fire in a shoot house. It is a tougher assessment and a more strict execution criteria when we're doing it force on force. You're not walking off. If you got stitched the fuck up, you don't
Yeah.
walk off laughing about that, you know?
You got to ask
But
why the
how
fuck that happened.
but how many times do you see that?
Yeah. Oh, you got me with
Yeah.
my big old giant mask on and the paint splotch right between the eyes.
Dude, that's the other thing. That would be a win, right? Law enforcement just, and I know this is union stuff or whatever. The last, whatever, 12 years, of hits that I did. I never wore a paintball mask. I wore what I wear to go to work,
Yep.
right? You need iPro. You need a
I
good set of, ballistic Oakley M frames or something, right? You don't need to put on a chest protector,
you were
right? You don't
plates.
need, I have plates on. I have my normal gear on. I have short sleeves, right? I have been hit in the neck all the time. I have never shot anybody unintentionally doing CQB where the rounds did not impact below their sternum 360 around them, because that is the professionalism of training. I'm going to aim here. You do your part and react to those bullets like they're 70 grain bullets, and that's all you're going to get. If you don't, I'm going to look for places that aren't protected, and then I'm going to shoot those places over and over and over again until I get you to react to it, right? But it's when you have role players who come in and they cook you off in the face, right? And they get a bunch of rounds in their chest and you caught one, maybe across your cheek. One of you is aiming, one of you is not,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that's
Like,
because we're getting to the end. I think that's one thing we can hit is the importance of role players and the it's you need a director to give
yeah,
very clear left and right lateral limits for most of the things you want to set up. Now we've done training where it's like, here's your building, here's 18,000 square feet. You go in there and be a bad guy, do whatever the fuck you want to do. But these are the rules for the engagements, right? You got to do these things. Your job is to shoot them sternum or lower in the legs, right? Because
yeah,
they aren't wearing face pro. They just have eye pro on. That's your job. But you can run around. You have to get hit 5 times. If you feel 5 impacts, I don't care where they're at. You got to get hit 5 times, or you can keep fighting. No dead arms, none of that. You just get to be alive for 5 hits, and watch that frustrate dudes too, right? I hit him. Yeah, you didn't hit him enough. Like, does that make sense? Like the importance of the role player knowing what they're supposed to do and how you go about managing it can have a huge change in the way these scenarios go and the
yes.
value of the training you're going to get. If they go off
They,
into left field and start doing stupid shit, you're pretty much ruining what the unique things you're trying to look for in the student or in the officer, the people you're evaluating, because the guy's completely changing the abilities.
yeah. Somebody wrote in here, training without accountability is a waste of time,
It is.
right? So every time you see like a force on force, if the role players aren't good, the role players need to be good. They need to be briefed correctly. They need to be professional
Yeah.
trainers. They need to be professionals, right? That sometimes is absent. You need to have guys that set the training up that understand what we're trying to get out of it, right? That is also if it's CQB, if it's your TTPs or whatever scenario or situation you're setting up, the guy setting up needs to have a very high level of understanding about what he wants to get out of it. Not just, oh, we're just doing some cool shit, right? Like, what do you specifically want guys to do here, right?
One of my favorite things you'll see and I see this at work with people that set scenarios up. They'll give them a scenario, they'll cut loose, and guys will go do something they didn't expect. The value, the people being evaluated, they'll go off to another side. Well, what you can't go over there. Why not? Why can't they go over there? Well, they're supposed to go through here, so this happens. Oh, you're supposing everything, so you're not letting them free think anything. You're just your scenario in your mind is how this was supposed to go, let alone them having the ability to interact with your scenario, which I think is always fine. The guys hitting the place can do whatever they want as
Yeah.
long as they're following their TPs. But your actors have to be controlled. But you can't have something so set in your mind. All right, they come through this
Oh,
door, you're going to fire at them twice, and then go over here, and this is what they'll do next.
Chris, we could do a whole another hour on just site setup and, you know,
Yeah.
that's
And
where,
we're about to lose connection anyway.
you know, the idea, guys that sell the CQB instructor class, is it though? Is it really though? Or is it just a CQB practitioner
Just a
class?
CQB class. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to post this. I think I got one question in here. Let me see what this says. CQB training is good in the Atlanta, Georgia area? Question mark. I have no idea. I don't. Sorry, guys. Matt?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. All right. Um, we're about to end up on time. I appreciate you coming on. I will post this on my page if anybody wants to follow up on it, or if you have questions later on. If you've watched it, feel free to let us know. You got anything
Word.
else, Matt?
No, man. Thanks for having me on, Chris.
Awesome days. See you guys.
Bye.